Hello, welcome to another edition of The Naked Truth. My name is John Singletary.
And my name is Ramon Roan.
And today we're going to talk about prison labor. You know, earlier we talked about the Constitution and how the 13th Amendment does not restrict slavery. And of course, today we're going to talk about prison labor and how they actually go about getting around the system in order to still use slave labor. Constitution, we talked about it. It said, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. So, slavery is indeed legal as long as you have been convicted. And so that's why we see a lot of our young boys being convicted. Oftentimes we understand that when they do the conviction, something wrong has been done. But, and anytime you do wrong against the law, then there should be some punishment. But what we're saying is that over and above the norm, we have been targeted so that African American young men end up in prison when otherwise it would not have been the case, whether it be through the program that they have that's called what's the program they have you can go to instead of going to jail. No, it's anyway, can't think of the name of it right now. It's the
Scare Street?
No, the program you can go to instead of being convicted. You go to it for a while, and then from there, you actually get out with no conviction.
Okay.
Anyway, I'll think about it in a minute.
No problem.
So we're talking about prison labor and the fact that it is still legal in the United States. Mm-hmm. You'll be surprised to know how many companies actually use prison labor. When you get locked up, of course, there's a contract from federal funds that's given to municipalities for getting you locked up. There's also the contracts that go along with the toothbrushes and go along with the food and everything else associated with you being in prison. And now also there's a contract and a savings given to companies who use the prison labor in order to cut costs. You know, we've known that for quite some time. It's all been about cheap labor. When we took a look at the from way back since the Transcontinental Railroad was built, they used Chinese in order to decrease costs, paying them $30 a month.
Right.
Why? Because the labor was cheap.
Right.
Not that other people didn't want to work. Of course, during slavery, labor was cheap. A lot of Mexicans come to this country through labor sources so that cheap labor can be used for businesses. And so it goes on and on and on, and now they're taking a look at the prison system. Well,
the article that John and I are referring to was an article posted by Atlanta Black Star, and we encourage you to read it, and we're giving our commentary on it.
Yeah.
And but you have to understand that the largest population, the demographics in prison, is black people.
That's right.
We're the only people in this country that was in slavery in this country. So we have to take a look at this and the fact that there is still a form of slavery that's going on. There's still a form, even though we may have legally, at least for the outset, the outward appearance, got rid of Jim Crow with the whites only, the black signs, you know, black water fountain, the white water fountain, but it's still there. And so in this article, we're talking about even after you get out of prison, you're still bound by a system of a form of slavery. Maybe it's a servitude, if you want to say, such as they're getting tax credit for hiring prison employees, rather, you know, convicts.
Sure. Initially, through Unicorn, it was only supposed to be to produce products that were sold back to the government. And now it's expanded to where they allow corporate America to use that same prison labor in order to decrease their own expenses so that the bottom line is larger, and then they sell the products now to the open public.
Right.
Not only back to the federal government.
Right. What I mean here is that on this article it says prison labor in the United States is referring to insourcing under the Work Opportunity Tax Credit. That's the WOTC. Employers receive a tax credit of $2,400 for every work release inmate they employ as a reward for hiring risky target groups. Those are inmates. The workers are not only cheap labor, but they are considered easier to control. They want the slave, you want the docile slave. You don't want the slave, you don't want that kind of slave that, you don't want Django.
Right.
You don't want Django.
The others are performing under lock and key.
Right.
Chained up and under guns.
Right. It says here, companies are free to avoid providing benefits like health insurance or sick days. They also don't need to worry about union demands for vacation time, raises, and family issues. Yeah. They left the confine of the physical prison, but in a way, they're still in prison.
So blacks are still going to work. It's just that they're not going to be able to benefit, or their family's not going to be able to benefit outside of prison.
Right.
But yet, corporate America still benefits. So we're still going to work you.
Right.
And you're going to still have jobs.
You're still going to have a job.
But
right.
You're not going to get any benefit out of it.
Right. You're not getting any benefit out of it. The only benefit you have right now is the fact that you're not locked up physically. But there is a prison that's not bound in the bars or in the prison system, but they are still actually in a virtual prison. Because where can they go? Where else can they go? There's the $2,400 tax credit, and that's basically saying I can treat you any kind of way.
Sure.
Because if you don't do what I say to do, we're gonna fire you. And a lot of states are no right, was a right to work state. And those their rights, just because you committed a crime and you paid your debt to society, your rights should not be violated or forfeited. Forfeited while you're in prison. Okay, well your freedom is taken away from you for a period of time, but once you're out of prison, you should have your constitutional rights. So
while in prison, we can treat you just like a slave, and when you're out of prison, we can treat you almost like a slave.
That's what you just read.
Exactly right. And the name of the program was a pretrial intervention that I couldn't remember earlier. That PTI program, you'll find that mostly non-African Americans take advantage of the pretrial intervention program.
Right.
But when it comes to the penal system, we have more African Americans there.
Right.
And if you've ever been to court and simply witnessed how the court system will allow those who can pay for the pretrial intervention program to go there, but the same person next to him creating the same crime has to then go into the penal system. And because unfortunately this country is predicated to a large extent upon discrimination, what it means is that more blacks will go into the penal system, more whites will go to the PTI, and as a result, the disparity in the effect broadens, and as a result, we end up with like what we're having now